welcome to Movies, Films, and Flicks. I am Mark Hoffmeyer, and joining me is a man that really wants to start a hitman union. It's Niall Moore.
How you doing, Mark?
I'm not joining your club.
It's got great benefits. We've got collective bargaining power. You don't have two guys going for the same hit at once. I think it's a really good deal.
Other meetings?
There will be no meetings.
Oh, good. Oh, so you learned from Akroyd in this movie.
I did. Yeah, if there be meetings, I'm out. I have too many meetings at work. I'm not going to start it in my spare time.
Yeah, I mean, how do you get all those hitmen together for hit people for meetings? Like, that sounds... And it's worldwide, so...
I guess, they had some, rudimentary chat rooms going on. You saw Akroyd, typing away on this, green, screen, being like, hey, I'm doing the Detroit job. And they're like, no, you're not. I assume it'll just be some kind of, what was it back in those days? MSN Messenger or whatever, or AOL chat, or...
This movie stays surprisingly modern because he has a cell phone. He has email. He's like, email it to me. Like this, when you watch this movie in 97, you watch Hackers, right? And then you watch The Net.
Oh, Hackers is ridiculous.
Yeah. And listen, purposely so, right? But you watch Grosse Pointe Blank and it feels very modern now. Like he's just on the computer, like, oh, it's in your email, just download it. Like, it's very, it does a very good job of not dating itself, I would say. And the music was all, 80s, 70s, kind of punk.
Yeah,
so, I mean,
the music is all kind of, basically, the music was all music that would have been around in, 1986, which is basically the 10-year before. So basically the era when they were supposed to be in high school. So you had things like Guns N' Roses with The Clash. You've got The Specials. You've got there's a Pete Townsend song in there. You've got Lena, 99 Love Balloons.
Violent Femmes.
Yeah, you've got some
Blister in the Sun. I became obsessed with because of this movie. This movie introduced me. I was 15 when I watched this. I saw this in the theater, and I gotta tell you, John Cusack has always been a favorite of mine because in Say Anything, he was this super nice dude, but he was also a kickboxer. So he was super nice, but he could also kick you. In this one, he's not the standard 97 action hero. I mean, action had changed. You had Keanu Reeves as an action star. You had Christian Slater. So I mean, they weren't as macho as they were in the 80s. But to see this hitman going to a psychiatrist or forcing himself onto a psychiatrist, I know where you live. Oh. Actually, the psychiatrist is going to need Alan Arkin's going to need a psychiatrist after dealing with.
Oh, definitely. He was strung out by the end. When was it, the third or fourth call, when he's decided I'm going to stop killing people, and he's just sweating and shaking, and he's just I'm done with this.
I'll take a shot at it. No, don't shoot anything. But yeah, what I like though about Martin Blank is he goes to a psychiatrist. He's also very just kind of open about his profession. He's just sort of nice. He seems just takes care of his assistant.
Nobody believes him.
Yeah, exactly.
People just don't even listen. He's just oh, what do you do? I'm a contract killer. And they're like, oh, that's nice.
Yeah, it's a growth market. And I liked him because he's not acting tough. This is a guy who, when he fights Benny the Jet in the hallway, he's a practitioner. He's a kickboxer. He knows karate, John Cusack. Benny the Jet's his trainer in real life, the guy he fights. So I just like the way he carries himself. He doesn't carry himself like the ultimate badass. This isn't the big hit. He's just a neurotic hitman who actually likes it, but he's going through a crisis of conscious, and he goes to his 10-year reunion, and then he meets they're perfect for each other in this movie, man. Minnie Driver and Cusack
She's
have
awesome.
chemistry for days.
She is the perfect girl next door in that movie. She's got just the right blend of this kind of quirkiness, but not that and just kind of that doughy-eyed kind of small town cuteness going on.
I want to say that she's almost too convenient and cute, but when you think about their history and the chemistry that she and Cusack have, when they're dancing, Ebert brought this up when she puts her arm around him, and just the way they smile at each other and the way they enjoy each other, and she slaps him, and just they like each other a lot. These two, they just really do. And you, the second they're together, you feel it. This doesn't feel like one of those contrived, very lonely, neurotic dude meets a woman who only exists in a movie and she makes him a better person. They just both really like each other in this movie, and I think it works.
There's nothing that seems forced about how the relationship is depicted or how it develops. It all just seems oh yeah, I can totally see these two are an estranged couple.
Yeah, and she kisses. That kiss she planted on him was improvised, which makes me very happy. And I was reading an interview with the director, George Armitage, who he has a really great interview about talking about this movie. And he just said that Cusack was really happy for like 10 minutes after that, because when she planted it on him. But I also love the story of this script. I should have learned the pronunciation, but Jankowitz, one of the two.
Jankowitz?
Yeah, he just realized his 10-year union was coming out, wasn't happy about it, who wasn't where he wanted to be. And then Steve Pink gets a hold of it, John Cusack gets a hold of it. And the original script was 130 pages, then it went to 150 pages. And then George Armitage was like, guys, we got to make this an 100-page movie. So then they got it down to 100 pages. But it still doesn't feel rushed at all.
It doesn't, but there's surprisingly a lot in it.
Yeah,
like, there are a lot of little
little
subplots and little things going on where it's like, rewatching it before this, I was like, I forgot this thread even existed in this movie. Like, there's a whole kind of separate thing with like his best buddy from university. There's like
10 years.
The bully.
Oh yeah.
The guy who's the bully, who's now a poet.
Oh, I love that scene. Oh my gosh. Just skip to the end. Oh,
that was improvised as well, apparently. That was like one of supposedly in the original script, he was supposed to read the whole thing out, and Cusack was just like, let's just skip to the end.
For a while.
They loved it.
Cudlitz, man. It's fun seeing Cudlitz in that role, because nowadays he's kind of a badass in Walking Dead and all, or, was like, he kind of has this badass persona, so I love seeing him like that.
Well, yeah, I was looking at it. I haven't really watched The Walking Dead, but I remember him he was in an episode of Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Oh, that's my favorite episode.
A
zombie.
He played like the undead, like zombie brother who'd been like the football star.
And he's in Band of Brothers.
But yeah.
And I gotta say, like, this movie doesn't really need Hank Azaria and K. Todd Freeman, but I want
But they're
them
great.
In it. Yeah, exactly. Hey, tough guy. Hey, and you know what's interesting? There's a wrestling through line. So that Kenneth McCullers, K. Todd Freeman, they're like, yeah, he's a D1 wrestler. And then they meet their friend at the 10-year reunion. He's like, yeah, Greco-Roman, man, waist up. Like, but there's like a weird wrestling through line in this movie that makes me so happy. But
I guess
you don't need them, but I want them.
Like Hank Azaria doing like I'm gonna get you, man. I'm the tough guy. Do you think you can do this?
Yeah. The Michigan militia, she calls him. And I love it too when the Ultimart blows up and one of them just goes, cool. Like, that's just I'm really happy that you suggested this one, because like I said, I've loved John Cusack. I was always a big fan of his, because he was always, he always played kind of a tough guy, but he never played acted like the tough guy. So I love that about him. Also too, I forgot about how much of a great hangout picture this is. Like, this is a desert island movie to me, because with this, this movie, he goes there, it's so fast. Like, when they get back together, they're like, when he gets back, he and Minnie Driver are kind of like, okay, she's like, you got to earn your stripes for like a day or two. But we're, like they both love each other. Even when they like separate for a little bit, that last 6 minutes, like there's nothing.
Yeah, they're still just like, kind of thinking about her, and you see like wistful looks and just kind of like
yeah, it's just like 6 minutes go. Like, it's just such a streamlined hangout picture with likable characters, good dialogue. And you know what too? This movie came out in 97. This could have easily been Tarantinoized dialogue, but it doesn't play like that.
Well, Tarantino,
yes,
he wanted to be in it. He wanted to do a cameo and get like blown up in the store. That's why they ended up just putting the Pulp Fiction cutout in the like corner of the convenience store.
And they blew off Bruce Willis.
Tarantino actually wanted to, like, he loved it. Like, Tarantino absolutely loved the script and wanted to be a part of it, but he wasn't able to.
And he was a fan of Armitage, the director.
Yeah.
Yeah. And which makes sense, because this guy has such an eclectic filmography. But that's what I kind of love about him. And you know what's neat too? In Miami Blues, at the end of that, spoilers, Alec Baldwin dies. And so audiences hated it. So in the original drafts of this movie, I guess they filmed 3 different kinds of films for Grosse Pointe Blank. In this interview I read, ultra top, serious, and then somewhere in the middle, they had a scene where Martin Blanc dies. But then he remembered that with Miami Blues, everyone hated that Alec Baldwin died. So as soon as the father just says, yeah, my blessing, which always makes me laugh. Beautiful moment. They're just driving away. And then audiences loved it, he said. So they tried, like, he said he learned from his mistakes on Miami Blues to keep Blanc alive, even though he's a psychopath. Like, Minnie Driver is going away with a psychopath, but he's very open about it, so he's not a sociopath,
He
right?
is, yeah,
He's a
you know,
psychopath.
he just doesn't really have, you know, empathy, I guess. He's just like morally bankrupt.
Yeah, empty inside,
Mm.
but
Yeah,
he
he just
does.
doesn't really.
Yeah,
Though he does have certain, like you see, you know, he rescues the dude who's playing Doom in the corner of the convenience
yeah,
store. He like
yeah.
runs out past him, and then he's like, "Oh, hang on, I'll go back, grab the guy, save him from the explosion."
So he's a
Yeah,
psychopath, right?
there is some human kindness there.
Do psychopaths have human empathy? Like, is it a sociopath who lacks empathy? Because he's never trying to pretend. He's never trying to fit in with society by being someone else. Like, he's always himself, and he seems to
Well, he
know
definitely gets
himself.
called a psychopath several times.
Yeah. The director calls him a psychopath because he said he likes to murder. So,
He does, and he's got some creative murdering. He's copying something from You Only Live Twice with the
yeah.
poison on the wire. He tries to like get that guy in the hotel room. What I'm confused about is why is there access to like the hotel room underneath from the floor above? Like what is going on there? Does he
Yeah.
have to like tunnel through like the vents or something? And
Yeah, I have no clue. I mean, I guess he's that good, right? Hitmen find a way.
yeah,
I don't know. And
yeah,
I also too like Joan Cusack in this movie. She plays his assistant. Like I love her soup bit. She's like, no, like celery and carrots are just base. I don't know. I know you just went from talking about Hitmen, but I'm just in love with this movie, and this is the first time I've ever been able to talk about it at length. So it's kind of everything's like spilling out of me right now, kind of like Cusack does when he sits down with what Debbie at the radio station. He's just mumbling. But you know what's funny?
yeah,
When he sits there and like they have to close the blinds and he flips around, that stuck with me my whole
yeah.
life. I'm not a
And
hitman.
he
No,
just like he can't have like his back to the door. It's just, and it comes up in several other scenes. He's just like constantly checking out his surroundings and checking out.
so you know what's interesting? Recently, I've been doing a lot of movies where people come back home. So I've done Beautiful Girls. Well, I recorded them a while ago. Beautiful Girls, Just Friends, Garden State, and this. It's kind of nice in this movie how no one's like mad at him for coming back. Like his parents are like, "You never come home," or his brother's like, "What do
Well,
you know?
yeah,
You're never
his
here."
mum, his
Yeah, the
mum's in
dementia.
a home, I guess, and his dad is.
Was a drunk. I take it.
I guess, given that he poured an entire bottle of whiskey out over his grave.
Yeah, but when he comes home, everyone's just kind of like his best friend. They roll around. He catches up with other people. Even with Debbie, they kind of have some issues, but like, she still loves the hell out of the guy. So it's just nice that you skip all that. Like there's no. Does that make sense? Like there's just none of that hostility that
Yeah,
comes with it.
you don't have. Well, there's none of the manufactured drama that you sometimes get with these coming home things, where there's the people who stayed resenting the people
Yeah,
who went
yeah,
away.
yeah. I've been here for
It,
10
it,
years running the auto dealership.
and then you went away to do your own thing, left me here to
Yeah,
do all
exactly.
this stuff, looking after mom and pa.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there's none of that. But it just, I don't know. This is such a breezy movie. But I'm telling you, that just makes me realize why I love Cusack. Like, I just think he adds.
Well, Cusack, I had a look at his filmography. You know, he's only done 89 odd pictures, you know,
Wow.
including TV. It's not a huge number. You know, you see other actors with a far larger body of work. But it's so varied, and you know, I think eclectic is probably the best word for it. There's no one kind of point where you can be like, okay, that's definitely John Cusack-ish. It's all just like, you know, you've got Con Air where he's doing kind of action stuff. You've got this, which is kind of more action. But then you've got something like Being John Malkovich, which is just off the wall weird.
And 1408 that he pops in.
Yeah.
Like,
Or then, you know, Serendipity, which is just like almost I like to think that Serendipity could be a sequel to Grosse Pointe Blank. It's like, you know, it doesn't work out with him and Debbie. And he kind of becomes a more well-adjusted man because he's still best friends with Jeremy Piven, right? So Jeremy Piven leaves the real estate game, moves to New York as an obit columnist, and then Martin Blank decides to leave the game behind and becomes whatever, I can't remember his name in Serendipity, and
I
ends
love
up with
it.
Kate Beckinsale.
I mean, saying